a trade union. We know that trade union is an organization of workers, and they have got to act collectively to seek to protect and promote their mutual interest through collective bargaining. Uh, there are many definitions to trade union, but basically it is a continuous organization of workers to serve their mutual interest, and it's a formal body established through the acts. Whichever country you go to, trade unions are by the act of their own parliaments that they have. Or if you look at the trade union in India, we find that it is a precursor of trade union act that was passed in Great Britain in 1870. Some people, they try and join after 25. They come at once I start, and I do not permit them. Please tell them they continuously disturb. According to the Trade Unions Act of 1926, it can be any combination, whether temporary or permanent, formed primarily for the purpose of regulating the relationship between workmen and employers, or between workmen, or between employers and employers, and for imposing restrictive conditions on the conduct of any trade or business. This is how the Trade Union Act defines it. Says that it is can be combination, temporary or permanent, or both, for the purpose of regulating the relationship between workmen and employers, or between the workmen or between the employers, or for imposing restrictive conditions on the conduct of any trade or business. Now, we all know that the first trade union was formed in India in 1920, known as All India Trade Union Congress. Now, it has a long history in India. It's not that the total movement started after the formation of trade unions. It started long before that period. But we know that the year 1919 is known in history for few very, very important events. The first important event was that 1919 marked the end of World War I, which started way back in 1914, right? Which we all know destroyed a larger part of the world economy. Britishers were also one of the worst sufferers, and India, being the colony of Great Britain, also suffered quite a lot in terms of economy as well as lives of people. We know that 1919 is also known in India for the passing of the Rowlatt Act, which was, we know that it was very, very repressive in terms of prevention of strikes and any kind of non-cooperation that the independence movement was launching. We also know that we have the incident of Jallianwala Bagh, which occurred in 1919. But for our purpose here, the most important event was the formation of ILO having its head office at Geneva, where the labor organizations were to meet. This was also known for the success of the movement, the Russian Revolution, which started in 1770. And the final outcome was in 1919, where the proletariats overthrew the bourgeois class. They overthrew the aristocracy of that time, the czars. Now, all these events culminated into one thing, that is the proletariat class, the exploited class, the suppressed class was the one which got victory, and they got right to representation in the ILO that was formed in 1919. And in India, we know that India also had to send its representative to ILO, and therefore in 1920, the All India Trade Union Congress was formed. But in the absence of an act, it was waived, and therefore an act was passed in 1926. A history of trade union was published by none other than British labor historians and theoretician known as Beatrice Webb and Sidney Webb. They were husband-wives. And we also find that later on, a book, well-known book on trade union was written by Cole, known as History of Trade Union, that covers the trade union, history of trade union world over, with its inception as to how it got formed and what was the condition of the workers. They define a trade union as a continuous association of wage earners for the purpose of maintaining and improving the conditions of their working lives. This is what Beatrice and Sidney Webb has to say, that it is a continuous association of wage earners for the purpose of maintaining and improving the conditions of their working lives. But whatever it is a voluntary association formed for the pursuit of protecting the common interest of its members and also promote its welfare. Now, if you go through the Das Kapital, or you go through the book by Len, we find that they too basically talked about the trade unions as an organization which was basically to protect the interest of the workers. And it was felt that stronger is the union, better would be the condition of the workforce, and the vice versa is also true. But trade unions today, if you look at, are of permanent nature, and their primary function is to protect the interest of workers against the discrimination and unfair labor practices which are prevalent in the industry. Therefore, objectives of trade unions, if you have got to list, will be like as follows. It was to ensure security of workers. This involves continued employment of workers, because if it is sometimes they are employed and sometimes they are not, then obviously they are going to starve to death. Therefore, they have got to ensure continued employment of workers, number one. Number two, they have got to prevent retrenchment, that they are not thrown out of their jobs. They will also be protected from the layoffs, because retrenchment is temporary, but layoffs are permanent. Or the lockouts that occurs in the industry, at any point of time, the industrialists say that we are locking out. No, you cannot do that. There are rules and regulations that you have got to follow. You are supposed to pay them compensation. There has to be reasons for lockouts. Similar thing is for strikes as well. And they say that restrict application of fire or dismissal or discharge or VRS, because most often when discrimination is to occur, they say that you take VRS. Why VRS? Why don't you allow me to work? Why should I go out of the job? Why should you dismiss me for no reason or discharge me for no reason? Or, even if you do not do that, now I'm employed and you are not giving me work. You're asking me to sit in the office, come in the morning and go off in the evening. You pay me, but you do not ask me to work. That is also a kind of punishment. That should not be there. And that will be protected by the trade unions. Now, the second objective is to obtain better economic returns for the workers. This involves wage hike at periodic intervals. In fact, it has to be, fixed that what percentage of wages will increase every year. That is called the annual increments that should be there. They have got to be paid bonuses at the higher rate if you are earning profit. They should also be paid all admissible allowances. They will be given subsidized canteen facilities. They would be given subsidized ration by forming cooperative societies within the organizations. And they should also be provided with transportation facilities to and from the place of their work to the nearest point from their residences. It is also to secure power to influence management. Now, this particular point where they have got to influence the management, it involves workers' participation in management that we have seen by forming works committee, by forming, other bodies like shop council, or they can have higher bodies as explained as different methods, or have a workers directory scheme being implemented. It is also to secure power to influence government. This involves influence on government to pass labor legislation which improves working conditions, safety, welfare, security, and retirement benefits of workers and their dependents, and seek redressal of grievances as and when needed. Now, a smallest example of this struggle, we all know that minimum wage has been fixed for permanent workers to be 18,000 rupees, right? That is the minimum wage, whereas a demand is there that it should be 26,000 rupees minimum. Now, the government has not really accepted it or declared that they will be paid 26,000 rupees, but the struggle is on, and we are sure that they are going to get it, because time and again the news is there that they are considering it and they will get a higher return. Similarly, we also find that retirement benefits, that is for the public sector organizations, it is being declared in the pay commissions, or it has to be declared from time to time, or dependents benefit which are there, or if there is a grievance, we have already gone through the grievance procedure through which this would be solved. Now, if you look at the functions, those were the objectives. The functions of trade union is that unions listed by National Commission on Labor are to secure fair wage to workers. So they talk about fair day's work for the fair wage for the fair day's work. We also talk about safeguarding security of tenure, if tenure appointment is there, or security of the terms if a permanent employment is there. It is also to improve the working conditions and conditions of services, which also we said that was being laid down in the Act of 1946, known as the Standing Orders Act. But in reality, that was not being followed in toto, and there is always a dispute to this regard. So the trade unions is a body which associate with the workers as a whole and try and do representation that conditions of their working lives may improve. It is also to enlarge opportunities for promotion and training of these workers. Now, if you join an organization, you will not grow without training. You will not remain at the same level for life, and therefore, means of promotion and training is also being looked after as a result of the efforts of the trade union. It is also to improve working and living conditions. Working condition would be basically implementation of the Factories Act of 1948 and doing something beyond that, what is laid down in the Act, to improve the working conditions. And living condition would be the housing to be provided or money in lieu of housing, known as HRA, or other facilities to be provided. Now, in a condition when prices are rising every day, we find that the best option would be that the workers are being provided with the organization's housing where they would be living with comfort, so that they are not exploited by the market forces. It is also to provide for educational, cultural, and recreational facilities that is being laid down. It is also to cooperate in all facilities, technological advances, by broadening the understanding of worker on its underlying issues. Say if any technology is to be introduced, a change has to be brought into the organizations. Now, the organizations are not going to talk to each individual worker and inform them as to what would happen, how they are going to be affected. It is the representation of workers which is needed, and that representative is basically the trade union representative, who is being informed of these things, who in turn try and convince their workers. And that is a two-way process, that how the workers are going to gain by any change that is being envisaged or being incorporated, and how management will also gain in terms of their profitability and efficient working. It is also to promote identity of interests of workers with their industry. Whichever industry they are, if they will not get the benefits if they are not members of the union. So many benefits are being denied. They will not be considered as somebody, as a lawful kind of a thing, and may suffer if they are individuals, they do not join these unions. It is also to offer responsive cooperation in improving level of production, productivity, discipline, high standards of quality, and it is also to promote individual and collective welfare. And as we noted, that only a recognized trade union would be allowed to participate in collective bargaining, and only a recognized trade union will get an office space within the organization. Only a recognized trade union will get the facility of notice boards, which they can utilize for pasting the messages and informing their fellow workers about the conditions that they have got to follow. Also have the principles of code of discipline being pasted at conspicuous places in the union office. That is also very, very important part of it. But how is the union formed? That is one question that is bothering all of us. But what we find that as per the Trade Unions Act of 1926, any seven or more members of a trade union may, by subscribing their names to the rules of the trade union and by otherwise employing with the provisions of this act with respect to registration, apply for registration of a trade union under this particular act known as Trade Unions Act of 1926. Now, these are the things that they have got to ensure. Every application for registration for a trade union shall be made to the registrar and shall be accompanied by a copy of the rules of trade unions and the statement of the following particulars, right? So rules of the trade unions shall have to be formulated before the registration takes place. It should have a name pre-decided, occupations as to which type of occupation that union is belonging to, the address that they have to have, and the members making an application, right? This has to be mentioned. It also says that the name of the trade union and address of the trade union's head office is needed as to where is exactly the head office located. The titles, name, age, addresses, and occupations of the office bearers of the trade union is also to be mentioned. That is the chairman or president or vice chairman or whatever is there, the secretary and the members who are there. Where a trade union has been in existence for more than 1 year before making an application for its registration, these shall be delivered to the registrar together with the application, a general statement of the assets, liabilities of the trade union prepared in such form and contained in such particulars as may be prescribed. Now, these statements have to be certified by a CA as to what exactly is the financial position. Now, once trade union is formed, they start working in the industry. We have already said that there is no provision in the ID Act of, Trade Unions Act of 1926 for the recognition of trade union. The trade unions are recognized based on the principles laid down in the Code of Discipline, Annexure A, and the rights of trade union is prescribed in the Schedule Trade Union, Rights of Trade Union in Annexure B of the Code of Discipline. But there are certain shortcomings of trade unions that we could find. There are certain weaknesses of trade union that we know. The first and foremost weakness is the uneven growth. It did not grow systematically. So trade unions are concentrated in large-scale industry sector, and in big industrial centers, it is not at other centers and smaller organizations, number one. Now, there is very little trade union activity in small sectors, for example, agricultural labor and domestic sector. The trade union has touched only a portion of the working class in India. It is not having a widespread membership or association of all workers that is being seen in countries like the present aggressor, Russia, which was widely prevalent in the erstwhile Soviet Union, or it is there in Yugoslavia, or it is there in France, or it is there in Great Britain, or it is there in the United States of America. Now, in India, we find that the size of the trade union is also a question to be dealt with. Because the size is determined based on the membership. And membership is found to be very, very low. Though the members of unions and union memberships are increasing, the average membership is, of course, quite inadequate that is being noticed. Now, if you look at the average number of unions in India, that is very, very large in comparison to other parts of the world, right? Now, as a result of having smaller number of members, the financial position of workers are also found to be very, very weak. The average yearly income of union is very low and inadequate. It is there in few thousands of rupees when maintaining an office may cost lakhs of rupees which are there. And the subscription rates are also found to be very, very low. Now, even today, union membership is about 5 rupees a month. Now, 5 rupees, you cannot even buy a cup of tea. You have got to dole out at least 10 rupees to get a cup of tea. And a member subscription of a union is 5 rupees even today. Now, that is why the financial position is weak. Number one, number of membership is less, and amount of money that is charged is also very, very less. Now, due to their financial weaknesses, most unions are not in a position to undertake welfare programs as is the objective of the formation of a union. We also find that all unions are having affiliation with one or the other political parties, right? For example, if you look at INTEC, Indian National Trade Union Congress, it has got its affiliation with the Congress Party. If you look at Hind Mazdoor Sabha or Hind Mazdoor Panchayat, that is associated with the present dispensation Bharatiya Janata Party. We also have got C2, which is associated with the Communist Party of India. And within that, there are bifurcation of, there is one group associated with Lenin as the main person they follow, or there is another group which talks about Marx. So within the organization, there are further subdivisions which are there. Now, so what we find that there is always an interference of the parties. Politicians basically exploit the unions and workers for their personal and political gains. Thus, the political leadership is very harmful to the trade union movement in India. If you go through the history books, we find that in order to control the workers, in order to keep peace in the organizations, these leaders were being used by the management as well as by the outside political parties to support them politically and control, keep peace in the organizations which are there. And even the best of the organizations in India, Tata used to pay to the leaders of that time for keeping peace in the organizations, the trade unions. We also find that there are multiplicity of trade unions. Several unions in the same establishment or industry. The existence of rival unions with conflicting ideology is generally responsible for unhealthy growth of trade union movement. Say in some cases, employers encourage split in unions to undermine their bargaining power. Now, we also find that not only there is multiplicity of union, there is dual membership as well. there are some people who are members of more than one unions, because subscription is supposed to be very, very low, and there is no restriction, because the Trade Union Act itself says that 7 people could form, 3 would be the office bearer, and there would be 4 members. But it does not say that these 4 members cannot become part of another application elsewhere. And we find that it happens that the same members has joined not 1, not 2, but more than 2, even sometimes organizations of unions, and they try and have their influences in either of them wherever they feel more benefit. In some cases, employers encourage split in unions to undermine their bargaining power, because that is in their interest. Of course, we said problem of recognition is there, that it is not being laid down. It's a voluntary principle which are there for recognition. There is also absence of paid office bearers, because once you become office bearer, you hardly find time to really work. Now, but they are getting paid, and they have either have got to work, or if they are not working, then they have got to be in the good books of the management to get paid, so they become more sort of an agent rather than as the servers to the members. We also find that there is apathy of members. Majority of workers do not take keen interest in union activities. The attendance of the general meeting of union is very, very poor in India. We also find that there is opposition from the employers for the formation of trade unions. Now, this opposition is that they try and intimidate, they try and victimize labor or their leaders. They sometimes even start rival unions and bribe unions officials so that they remain under control. There is inter and intra-union rivalry also. That is, multiple unions create rivalry, and unions try to play down each other in order to gain greater influence among workers and in the eyes of the management. Employers take advantage of infighting, inter-union rivalry, weaknesses in power of collective bargaining, and reduce the effectiveness of workers in securing their legitimate rights. We also find that with these weaknesses, we have got the problems of trade unions, where they are saying that there are many small unions instead of one large union. This reduces their bargaining power. Small trade unions do have conflict of interest. India political system, political establishments support the unions, and the labor wing, it is considered as the labor wing of the party, and politicalization means compromise with the workers' interest and serving more the interest of the parties. We also find that most labor force is still semi-literate or uneducated. And this lack of education among workers force lead them to an improper representation of workers. The outside leadership is widely prevalent. It does not say that an outsider cannot become the office bearer. They contest elections, and if they are being voted, they will become the union office bearers without being members of the of an organization. There are unregistered unions do not get protection from civil and criminal liabilities, and the Trade Unions Act does not apply for informal sector. The large section of workforce is not represented, and the trade unions are often underfinanced, under financial stress. This means that they do not function to their full potential, And if they do not function to their full potential, they may not be able to achieve the objectives for which it was basically being established, right? So what will happen? In practice, theoretically, it's a very good organization. They have very good objectives to achieve, but in reality, in India, they fail to achieve the objectives for which they are being established. Now, there are certain major federations which comprises of large number of membership of unions. Now, therefore, these federations are apex bodies at national level, and all trade unions are like craft unions and industrial unions and general unions who has to become member of these federation to have bigger identity as far as an all India value is concerned. And central trade unions and federations help smaller unions and support at national level to address their causes. That is how it functions. What are those? Now, if you look at these slides, we find that the first and foremost is, of course, All India Trade Union Congress, formed in 1920, and it is said that it has got average membership of 30 lakhs of workers, right? Initially, it was much larger, but All India Trade Union Congress seceded from Indian National Trade Union Congress seceded from the ATAC in 1947, and it is having affiliation with the party called Congress and has got 55 lakh membership even today. Hind Mazdoor Sabha was formed in 1948. Again, it came out, the extremist came out of the extreme left came out of the All India Trade Union Congress and formed Hind Mazdoor Sabha in 1948. It has got average membership of 45 lakhs. Now, in 1955, a BMS called Bharatiya Mazdoor Sabha was formed, and it has got membership of 41. This was formed taking membership from the All India Trade Union Congress as well as Bharatiya Mazdoor Sabha. We also have got Hind Mazdoor Kisan Panchayat, which was formed in 1962 and has got membership of about 16 lakhs of workers. We also have Center of Trade, Indian Trade Union Congress, which was formed in 1970, has got an average membership of 24 lakhs. And you also have UTUC, which is United Trade Union Congress, which has got an average membership of 8 lakhs and was formed in 1971. It is basically having its affiliation with the Lenin Saranis. Right? So these are basically the federations which a union has to be member of, that we know, and its functioning that has been explained. But presence of a union, of course, benefits the worker at large, that we all know. Thank you for today. If you have any question, please feel free to ask me before I close. Hello? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Clear,
All right.
sir.
Okay.
Sir, it's clear. No problem.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.